In this guide, I'm going to explain how you create the login form and also the login macro. So what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to create a new form design, or you can go to more forms and create a modal dialog. I created the form design and then set the pop-up to yes in the properties, but you can do it either way. The modal dialog is probably easier. So my login form looks a bit like this, and to make it so that it pops up, if you have done it this way, if you go to all, as you can see, pop up, the third one down, you can change that to yes, and that means that it will pop up when you open it. And as you can see, I have got a text box here which is called user ID, and also one here which is then called user password. One thing I have also done as well is I've created the input mask as password, just for a bit of protection when the user is entering their password, so that it comes up with asterisks rather than the actual letters and or numbers for the password. Also, what I've got, the login button then is set up so that when the on-click event runs, it then runs the macro login, which is this one down here. So this is the macro that I used to run when the login button is clicked in the form. So as you can see, I've started off by creating an if statement here, which checks to see if either the user ID or the user password are blank. That's what the isNull does. And if either of them are blank, then it outputs a message box saying that there are missing details. If both of them are filled in, then what it does is it runs, so it goes into this else here, and what I've got is I've got it setting a temporary variable, which is, see, I've set the username based off of the user ID, and I've also got the password, which is then based off of the user password from the login form, which that's the user ID and that's the user password. So then once I've set those temporary variables, I've got another if statement here, which basically checks it basically looks up the teacher password from the teacher table, where the teacher ID is equal to the username temporary variable, which is essentially the user ID from the login form, and it then compares the password that's found from the table with the password that was entered from by the user in the login form. Now, if it doesn't find a password here, because as you may notice, this only cases for the teacher table, if it doesn't find a password, then it runs this else if statement down here, which then looks for the password in the tutor table, because obviously the teacher table has got its own passwords, and the tutor table has also got its own passwords. They're not both in the same table. So that's why I've got these two separate DLOOKUPs here. So if it does find the password and it's correct from the teacher table, then it closes the login form and then it opens the teacher form. And the same again, if it finds the password in the tutor table, then it closes the login form and then opens up the tutor form there. If it doesn't find the password in any of those, then it goes into this else here, and this then outputs a message box saying that there are incorrect details. So just to show it working, essentially, if I open this in form view, as you can see, if I put in the user ID there of a tutor and put the password in, and if I click login, as you can see, it brings up the tutor form. If I then open it again and put in the user ID of a teacher and then put in the password, click on login, as you can see, it brings up the teacher form, and again, the teacher ID here, as is covered in a later guide, this refers to the temporary variable that we created, which was the username in part of the login form. And then just to test it, if you leave any of them blank, click login, it brings up this dialog box here, which says there are missing details. So as I say, that's how you create the login form, which looks like that, and also then the login macro, which looks something along those lines. And also, that temporary variable username, that is the temporary variable that I use in the other guides when I do the queries, etc. So that's where it is set in the login macro here.